Paul, you sat here with me 12 months ago and it sounded like a period of rebuilding, and yet you had arguably your best season in a decade. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, every season's really a rebuilding season, as you know. But last year was an exceptional season with a lot of horses, coming to the fore and doing really, really well. And yeah, as I said last year, we've got lots of young horses, lots that are going to need time and a lot of patience. But the same applies now. But there are some older ones that have come on through now that can run in some of the better races. So yeah, it turned out to be a much better season than we ever thought. And
it was a really good combination as well, wasn't it? You had the young jockeys who you gave an opportunity to. Harry Cobden promoted to first jockey, Bryony Frost shoulder to shoulder with him. You had emerging talent, and you had probably had quite a few surprise packages too.
Yeah, the jockeys did incredibly well. Bryony and Harry, and ones behind them, and Harry was only 20. I think to win a Trainers' Championship with a young team like that says quite a lot for them. And he rode very, very well. It vindicated our decision to keep him. It was also good to give Sam plenty of rides in a Grade 1 winner as well, because he's a top man and rides very, very well and will always continue to ride for us. I just said to you a minute ago, if we'd have sat here this time last year and said Clanders Bow, could win the King George and Surname could end up highest rated chaser and Frodon winner right now, we'd just sort of probably smiled. But it's just horses do improve and surprise you, and hopefully we'll have a few of those this year, and those horses will maintain their progress, which if you go back to the days of Courto and Denman and Big Bucks, they kept their progress for a number of years. So I'm hopeful that they will carry on. Obviously we've been unfortunate we lost top of the games, one of the big players out, but he'll be back next season. And nearly at some stage of their career, most horses end up having a bit of time off, and I always say it might, to the owners, it might not sound it right now, but in time that might look back and think, well, that didn't do them any harm.
No, might do the Trainers' Championship prize total a bit of harm, doesn't it? Those are the kind of things
that is fact, but that's what happened. Nicky had a few unfortunate things go wrong last year, and if you lose a couple of your big players, you're going to struggle a fraction. But I've been very privileged to win the Trainers' Championship all those times, and if we win it this year, great. If we don't, we won't have failed. We're building on a team that over the next few years will be potent, and we'll win it another day with a bit of luck. But it's not the real reason we're doing all this hard work and everyone's working hard. Is we want to win races and get the best out of the horses we got and try and produce some top class chasers of the future.
And we start talking about those surprise packages like, I suppose, Black Court, and for the last 2 seasons, Frodon, of course, Clanders Bow to an extent. Would it be fair to say that, looking from the outside, you've been prepared to let horses take their chance in the last couple of seasons and surprise you, more so in recent times than previously?
Yeah, once they were ready.
Roll the dice in a way.
Once they were ready, and we believed they were good enough. I mean, Black Courton was one who's just astonished me from where it's come from, winning a handicap hurdle at Taunton to done incredibly well. He is obviously, he's not going to improve anymore, I wouldn't have thought, and he'll run to a level, and it might be hard for him to compete at Grade 1s, but he just developed and came on and was ready for. And if you think they're good enough and mature enough and you've got enough belief in them, give it a go.
Some horses just clicked, don't they? I mean, your Clanders Bows and your Frodons and horses like that were on the fringe of being great, ended up great. I mean, you didn't know whether they would do it last year or come in this year. But everything just clicked into place last year, and 2 big winners at the festival as well, 2 big Grade 1s, with Frodon on top of the game. It all helps.
It's really only now when you look back at it and at the start of a new season, when you're trying to replicate it, you realise how good it was, to be honest. Horses just got in good form, some of the big boys stepped up and just got better and better. It was certainly the best season I've ever been here for. It was amazing.
And young jockeys as well that personally, and Bryony Frost and Harry Cobden delivering on the big stage, you're just giving it that extra little buzz.
Yeah, it was great because those guys have been with us from pretty early on in their careers, and but it just shows that they have the talent to ride those horses on that stage, and they just needed a man like Paul to believe in them. And Harry, the way he stepped up to being a stable jockey last year was, I thought, absolutely excellent. He has a very, very good temperament for big races, and he did brilliantly.
Yeah, it was a brilliant season. Nobody expected it to go as well as it did, and full credit to all the team, the horses, and Mr. Nicholls for keeping the show on the road.
You must have been revved up though after that sort of 3-4 months on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, I was certainly ready to go, and to come away from Chepstow with 5 winners was brilliant. And then sort of every week we were having big winners, and it was fantastic.
Did you feel the pressure of being a young first jockey, kind of in a sense been thrust into that limelight quite early?
I wouldn't say so, because I know I haven't been riding for that long, but I've actually been riding out here for 7 years now. So I know the procedure quite well, and I've seen it all happen through the years. And like last year, it went so well, and all the horses were winning, and it was just a sort of turn up and ride them, and one or two of them won, and we go home.
And it felt like that, looking from the outside as well. You know, you and Bryony, suddenly the new force here at Ditcheat. Bryony knocked out, I think, 8 winners in October, and suddenly she was off. You banged in the winners at Chepstow, and you were up and running. Did it feel like you were all kind of bouncing off each other?
Yeah, no, it was. It was a fantastic season, and you know the morale in the yard was great, and everyone was in flying form.
You were also part of something, I think it's fair to say as well. You know, Paul having the faith to put Harry Cobden in as his main jockey, you alongside him shoulder to shoulder as well. Did it really feel like you were part of the start or the restart of something here at Ditcheat?
Oh, I don't know. Hey, look, Paul is a master at the game. That's why who he is, and he hasn't, you know, come into it from a high level. He's built his way up, which you know, you learn a lot from that. And the team here, you know, you have Clifford, his head lad at the top yard, and he took me under the wing when I first walked in here. I was like I've always said, I was a proper baby. I didn't know a lot. I was quite homesick for the first 6 months, you know, and you know, they were kind of my second family to me. Any problem I had, not just in racing, just in general, trying to fit in and things like that, they were all there for me, you know, and that's a mega thing. And you got to be tight as a team. Like I said, as a jockey, you can't do it by yourself if you haven't got, you know, your owners backing you, your trainer backing you, and also, you know, giving you the opportunities for these horses. That's why we all do it. It's because of our horses. And I've managed to have and partner some horses in their careers, like, and you would have never thought it 3 years ago. Not a chance. Yeah.
We're lucky at the moment. We've got the best, I think probably the best team of staff we've probably ever had. Changed things a little bit now with hours and things like that to try and make it a little bit easier for everybody. We got lots of, you know, we probably got nearly 140 horses to ride out every day. So we get that all done in 4 lots. We start a little bit earlier now and carry on to lunchtime, and then they have a few extra hours off, and you know, they get paid a bit extra, and everyone's dead happy with how it works. Everybody's got the same aim. They enjoy having winners, and they share the success of everybody, and you know, they deserve everything they get out of being involved with those winners, and the financial gain they get from plenty of good winners. And it's, you know, it is a good team, and it takes a while to get there, but you know, at the moment I'm very happy with the team we got.
Yeah, obviously began quite a long time ago. Happened by accident, really. I was brought up on a farm, so I was just used to milking cows and doing things like that. But I played a lot of football and hurt my ankle one day, and I ended up going to see a specialist, and he said a couple of things you could do to help your ankle and get better quicker. One was swimming, which I didn't like, and the other one was horse riding. And by pure chance we had a riding school half a mile down the road, and I said, well, let's go and give it a go. And as soon as I went down there, I fell in love with it, and that was it.
And so what was the jump from the passion to it maybe being a career for you?
Well, we didn't really give it too much thought. I mean, I did a lot of hunting and rode a lot. I had my own pony. And then when I was sort of getting to 16, leaving school, it was either work on the farm, and I thought, well, I'm not a big person, I'd have to be a jockey. But of course, we knew nothing about horse racing whatsoever. So it was a trip down to the local bookmaker, get a few addresses from trainers, and went from there, really. I mean, he said, the bookmaker said, apply to Frenchy Nicholson, because he trains jockeys and whatnot. So we contacted him, and he was just in his retiring stage. So he said, contact my son David. So we did. And it just sort of went from there.
And that was that. So a youngster leaving school to David Nicholls for how many years?
I worked for David Nicholson for 19 years, and I left school literally and went straight there.
What an experience.
Oh, it's an experience, all right. I mean, before I went to Gloucestershire, I'd probably never even been out of Somerset. So it was a bit of a shock to the system. But but I coped all right, and he looked after me really well. He was like a second dad to me. I started right at the bottom, never even sat on a racehorse when I went to his yard, so just built on from there.
You rode a winner, didn't you, under rules as a jockey?
I did ride a winner. I rode a winner for Jenny Pittman. Mark Pittman used to work for David Nicholls for a while, and they were looking for a £7 claimer to ride one round Towcester on a Easter bank holiday. So I got the ride, and it wasn't technically, they didn't think it would win, but actually it did win. So that was my only win, so it was good.
And you would have moved to Jackdaws, wouldn't you, in the early 90s with the Duke? I mean, at the time, and even now when you see it, state of the art, but it must have been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we moved there in 1992, but we set up, we were all part of setting up Jackdaws. The Gallops were in 2 years before we actually moved, and we used to hack over from Condicott to Jackdaws, which is about 4.5 miles. We used to go 6 days a week. So we knew the Gallops when we got there, which was a massive help for when we moved in October. We moved in October 92.
So how did the move come, or the call come, to maybe return home and join Paul Nicholls, 96 or thereabouts?
Yeah, 96. David Nicholson was sort of coming towards the end of his, training career. I know he did go on for a couple of years after I left, but it was sort of coming towards the end. And somebody said that Paul Nicholls, I knew he'd set up here, and, I knew of him. Said he was looking for a head lad, and I mean, I was only brought up 3 miles up the road, and I knew Mr. Barber as well because I was brought up round here, so I obviously knew him. And so I just came down, and I mean, the interview probably took 2 minutes, and that was it. That was me moving back home, sort of thing.
And Paul had only sort of started 5 or so years before with a handful of horses at the time. I mean, it had changed and developed and was starting to grow when you arrived. What was the feel you got about the place when you came?
I was quite excited when I came because I obviously knew Paul had trained a couple of Grade 1 winners. Seymour Business had won all his hurdle races, and he was the horse of the moment. And I mean, I didn't know Paul at all, but he just seemed to be one of these guys that was, enthusiastic and keen and all that. And I thought, well, I could probably do with a new challenge, and that was it really. But when we arrived, we had 40 horses when I arrived.
It just seemed to progress 1 year after the next.
It did, absolutely. I mean, it sounds silly, but the first horse I sat on when I came here was called Equinome. So, I mean, he ended up winning the Champion Chase, and he was a dream horse and a dream ride from my point of view. But yeah, it just progressed, and then obviously we had those few years with all those exceptional horses. You
rode Seymour Business, didn't you? You also rode Cotto. But was that something that you sort of enjoyed in those early days? Was it important to you? I like it. I'd ridden some nice horses at David Nicholson's and things like that. So yeah, I think, the position I was in, I wanted to ride the best horses I could. And Seymour, I love riding him. He was he's a small tank of a thing, right character, but I love riding him. I was lucky enough to sit on the Zertiup, and then I moved on to Corto, and I sat on Denman, Masterminded, Big Bucks, Neptune Collonge. At some point I rode them all, but that was, from my point of view, that's brilliant, to ride horses of that calibre.
Well, he's very much like me. He's a complete workaholic. He's the same age as me, same aim. He just wants to win races. I don't think we've hardly ever had a crossword, and we're good mates as well, which helps. And integral part of Team Ditcheat, which I've always said I call it Team Ditcheat. It's my business. I make the decisions and have to take the flak, and but it's a team. If
you bump into someone down the pub who doesn't necessarily know about racing, how would you describe what it is that you do day in, day out?
I do a lot of hours. Basically, I mean, from a personal point of view, my sort of main role is to look after all the horses, feed them all, and just keep an eye on the staff and everything. So, but it is all time consuming, and you have to put a lot into it. It's not the sort of thing you do 5 days a week. It has to be 7 days a week and flat out, basically.
How do you personally judge a good season?
I mean, obviously winning the big races, but also, you know, we're not looking at statistics necessarily, but we like to end the season with over 100 winners, £2 million in prize money, and over 20% strike rate. I mean, we've been lucky enough to do that for 16, 17 years on the trot, which is not easy, you know, especially when we're rebuilding the string and doing all that, and horses move on and new ones come in. So, you know, those sort of things mean a lot. You know, that's what you're sort of trying to achieve, and then at the end of the day, if you win the championship, brilliant.
Paul, tell us how you got into horses in the first place.
I would say because I'm as daft as a brush, and I've just loved horses as a youngster, and I mean as a youngster, as sort of 17, 18, 19. I actually went hunting once on one, and for a few weeks, and I just enjoyed racing. I just enjoyed it, you know. My mother was very keen on horses. Apparently she died very young, and she would love to have seen what happened afterwards, I think.
Yeah, very much so, carrying on the family tradition. Richard did as well, your brother. How did you choose those famous colours with the green and white?
Really, I said to Richard I wanted to borrow his one day, and he said, no, you can't do that. He said, you get your own colours, just put a white V in them or do something like that. So that's what I did, and they've been my colours ever since.
So Artifice has only got a jump to collect what is quite a valuable prize. This is the last. He jumps it safely, and so on the run for home, the cheers ring out from this largely southern-based crowd for Artifice. Rathgorman will win again in time, but not today. So coming up close home, it's Artifice, ears pricked, another winner for joint champion jockeys. Peter Skew at the line. Artifice, the easy and unchallenged winner.
We sort of think of you these days as being a kind of Gold Cup horse type owner, and yet one of your best early on was much more of a speed horse, Artifice. Remind us about him.
Well, he came from somebody called Tom Nicholls in Ireland, and he won 21 races for us. John Thorne was training him then, and he owned a third share of him. And it was just really, once you've got a good horse, you're desperate to get another one. And time came on, and eventually we got another one in amongst a lot of bad ones, I might tell you. But we were lucky.
And how did it come, the germ of the idea to have a stable here, a training establishment?
Well, that's down to my wife more than anybody else. Jim Old was up training near Dundry, near the airport up there, and I had a horse once. John Thorne had died. I had a horse with him, and he just kept saying to me, do you know anybody who can get me to have a stable or something? Would know one. And I know we came home from having watched a horse run nearer last and first, like a lot of them do, and we decided, Marianne, as we came into the stable here, or not, where is the stable now, came in, why don't, that's all falling down, it's all rubbish, it looks a mess, why can't you make that into a stable? So I asked my partners in the business here what they thought of it. They thought it was a good idea, and that's how it came be.
And so when Jim Old left, the vacancy came up, you needed to fill the slot. Who canvassed for the job? How did Paul Nicholls end up here?
Well, again, my brother had a bit to do with that. He knew Paul probably better than I do. Paul had ridden a couple of winners for me, and so I said, well, we've got to advertise the job. So we duly advertised it. The company here, they own it all, and with that along comes Paul Nicholls in applying for it, etc., etc. And to me, he was the one person who was really, although he'd never trained, he was outstanding in his enthusiasm for actually wanting to do. He felt he got it before I even sort of said hello, good evening and welcome. You can say he was lucky, or you can say I was lucky. We're both lucky.
Or both, indeed. But it's amazing, though, to think that, you know, from 6 horses there back in 1991 to 130 plus, here we are now in 2019, 2020. It's incredible, isn't it, really?
It is. You know, it's an amazing amount, because first year he only had about 8 horses, So it's anybody who's listening and they want to start, I can assure you he started from scratch. You know, a couple of horses of mine and 2 or 3 of his friends down at Barons's, and never really looked back.
Seymour Indians coming with a challenge 2 lengths behind as they come now to the 3rd last, and it's Crystal Spirit from Seymour Indians. These two 20 lengths clear of Spiky in 3rd. Going to the 2nd last, and Seymour Indians challenges in the centre. Crystal Spirit, Seymour Indians, the pair in the air together. Crystal Spirit on the far side and Seymour Indians stride for stride. They're tired horses, but they're racing to the last with Spiky in 3rd. As they go to the final fence, Seymour Indians getting the better now of Crystal Spirit, and he jumps it in the lead. Seymour Indians it is. Crystal Spirit's only a half length back. They go for the last 50 yards. Seymour Indians it is from Crystal Spirit, a long, long way behind.
And it might have been Seymour Indians who was the horse. It could have been him who was the horse who really kick-started the partnership between you and Paul and Ditcheat, but for fateful injury. And then it was Seymour Business, really, who came along in his wake. He was the really special horse who I suppose really kick-started things for you all.
Yes, but the story about Seymour Business, I could spend 10 minutes telling you about it. He was bought at Doncaster Sales. John Keithley and myself loved the pedigree, etc., etc. My brother was gone up there, we weren't there. So he actually bought it for us. And he said to me as soon as I arrived, this is Richard, he said, look, he said, make no mistake, this horse is too small for you. And so John and I went and looked at it. He said, Richard said, I've got a customer for it, no problems. So anyway, the customer was a chap called Richard Williams, who a lot of people knew. He took the horse, and I always said to him, if he happens to turn out to be good, I said, I want first refusal. And he duly won 2 points, walked them, and literally won by a distance, etc., etc. And after that season, Richard Williams said, look, this is the price. If you want him, you can have him.
I can remember Richard saying that in November or something like that, because this is probably one of the best I've ever trained. And so it was. And at the end of that first year, point to point, and Mr. Barber and Mr. Keithley bought him off Richard Williams.
Can you tell us how much that was?
No.
Okay. Because he was bought that's fine. He was originally bought relatively cheaply, wasn't he, for 5,500 or
yeah, he was there. That's right, he was. He was, I think, 4,600 to be exact. And he was slightly more than that when we bought him off Richard. But he was a friend of ours, and so we were very lucky. And he was very, very honest, and any dealing he did with us, it was very good.
I'd heard of Seymour Business before I'd arrived, so I didn't know him as a character. And I mean, basically, he was turned out in the field behind us here during the summer. And when he came in, I mean, we just go through the normal thing and popping a lad on him to ride away. And I remember legging him up in the front yard, and the horse just took off. Luckily I managed to keep hold of him, and he went the whole length of the front yard and he literally stopped dead at box 3, which ended up where he ended up staying in that stable eventually and winning his Gold Cup from. But when he first came in, the first day to ride him, he used to be wild, but luckily he used to calm down after that. And I rode him for 6 or 7 years, but I never ever rode him on the first day.
He chose his own box, literally.
And he literally chose his own box, because that's where he finished up and that's where he stayed.
It all happened quite quickly, didn't it? From that sort of novice hurdle season, next season going chasing, winning races aplenty, although bumping into Doran's Pride a couple of times in Ireland. What was the idea taking him to Ireland early on?
Well, the first time was because we thought it was a good race and we could win one over there, and I loved Ireland and always wanted to do it, and John wanted to do it. The second time was idiotic. We'd been beaten by him once, and we went and thought we could beat him a second time, and he beat us again. So, that's part of life, part of racing.
He won in '97 the King George, which, you know, we sort of fancied him a bit, obviously, but he actually won okay.
I told the trainer not to waste my time or his time in taking the horse up there. It was a class race, etc., etc. We duly went up there and there he was, 14, 16 to 1, and he won it. And beat a horse of Pipes that could, I'd thought, have gone past him, and he didn't. And we duly won it quite easily in the end. But it was an amazing thing. I didn't think he was as fast enough for that sort of race.
And then obviously went to the Gold Cup, got carried out, which we won't talk about.
Cool Dawn and Andrew Thornton, and there's Cyborgo is being pulled up, and he's taken out Indian Tracker and Seymour Business. A dramatic manoeuvre there by Cyborgo. He took out the Gold Cup second favourite at that ditch.
It was fairly frustrating, but not as frustrating as it was for the trainer, I might tell you. he when he was carried out, was very upset, and rightly so too. But when we come and win the Gold Cup in the end, all those things just disappear. You've forgotten them all, and you just celebrate in the proper manner.
Yeah, I hadn't been training all that long, and had some nice horses, but really Seymour was the one that sort of started it all off for me. He was Seymour Business was the catalyst to it all. I mean, there's a picture of him up on the wall there in '99 with good call echo name and Flagship Uberalis when they all won at Cheltenham. I probably wouldn't be sat in this house here now if it wasn't for those three horses, and in particular Seymour Business, who won that Gold Cup.
Going ballistic, and Seymour Business in the air together, and it's Seymour Business who was carried out last time. He's in a big drive position, Nick Fitzgerald on Seymour Business, going ballistic, and on his horse in second place. He's coming back for more. Florida Pearl is beaten in third, but at the line it's Seymour Business. Seymour Business is the winner.
What was the famous phrase you said, that you had an ambition to milk 1,000 cows and to win a Gold Cup? When did you achieve both?
Well, that's true, an old saying, and everybody really knows it, that I wanted to milk 1,000 cows as I was a kid, and I then wanted to win the Gold Cup. Always did. Always told everybody I was going to win the Gold Cup, and I won 2 Gold Cups, so there we are. Lucky, I tell you.
We obviously fancied him, but he was actually 16 to 1, which was quite a biggish price. But obviously we'd put the blinkers on him, and we sort of knew the blinkers seemed to have done the trick on him. And it was just a pleasure to watch him that day. It absolutely was.
You tried the blinkers at home?
We tried the blinkers at home. He nearly went off the top of the hill gallop with me, but luckily he didn't. But they seemed to just do the trick with him. And they don't with every horse, but we thought they would make a difference to him.
The first time we ever put blinkers on him was in the Gold Cup, and I'd never seen anything change a horse like it. It was just phenomenal what it did. The blinkers did to him in his jumping and his work, and they just made him really. I don't know why, but he always ran in them afterwards, and I was just a tough, genuine horse who gave everything, kept going. And he probably wasn't in the same league as Denman or Cordo Star, but just pure guts and determination and doggedness. He won his races.
You say he made your career?
Without a shadow of doubt, yeah.
He was so tough. He would never give up. I know he had blinkers in the finish, which helped him a lot, but all his life he was so tough, and he continued to get, even as he got older, he refused to give up in races.
They don't come much harder, so he'd probably be a boxer, I would imagine. If he was a human, he'd be a boxer, and he'd just keep going, slugging on and going. But he had a bit of character with it, so.
All he wants is a good jump at the last, and he will have run and jumped these into the ground. Here he comes now, at the final fence, over safely. Iris Blur regains second from First Gold in third, and you won't get allowed to cheer all season in this. Seymour Business in front of his devoted West Country supporters, well clear of Iris Blur and First Gold.
I believe grown men were crying when he won at Wincanton at the age of 13.
Yes.
That must have been a special day.
Well, it was, it was astonishing. People love old horses, especially stayers, and they keep coming out year after year. They really do appreciate them.
He gave you a bit of a fright, didn't he, a year or two before when he fell at Chepstow? I think the first time he'd fallen in nearly 5 years since his novice
Was it? Well,
days, yeah, which is amazing.
I can assure you he was, I think, at the third last, or I think it was there, and I ran all the way up there and I was exhausted before I got there, and just about 100 yards away he got up. I said, "You old bounder."
And a huge sigh of relief for everyone, I imagine. He would have got a round of applause, I'd have thought.
Oh, tremendous. You could hear it. Right back there, I could hear the applause as he got up. In fact, I heard the applause before I saw him get up, if you know what I mean. About the same time, but the applause was tremendous.
And I know you like to have the horses just over my shoulder, just outside, almost in the field next to us, during their summer holidays. Did he manage to get back here after retirement?
Oh yes, he did. He was back here for my daughter-in-law looked after him a lot of the time. We had a field down there, and he stayed out there all winter until he was about, I think, 24, and they suddenly walked out one morning and he was dead. So obviously he went out very quickly. But I was much better going like that than it is being ill or lame or something like that.
What a little horse.
Yes, he was.
It was from about the age of 9 I sort of liked the racing. Got into pony racing and then I thought, right, this is for me, and enjoyed the speed and the horses, and yeah, never looked back really.
I think your mum says you were always quite fearless. Is that the case?
Yeah, well, I had a few accidents when I was younger where I didn't quite see the fear.
And you still speak to Ron Hodges, your old mentor, regularly? How big a part has he been in your career and your life, I suppose?
Oh, massively. I speak to him all the time. Even win races, lose races, he'll tell you if you've given one a good or bad ride. He's got a thing about Newton Abbott about me going around the outside. Don't you go around the outside, round there, and stuff like that. So no, it's great. We've still got a really good relationship, and I try and see him as much as I can. And he's been a massive part of my career, and couldn't have done it without him.
Was there any point last season when you thought, yeah, I'm getting there, this is where I'm supposed to be?
But obviously, when all the horses are running well and everything's going right, you've got a lot of confidence, and you go out to ride the horses and you never second judge yourself or anything like that. New year this season, I hopefully just go out and do the same and try and bang a few winners in at the same time.
The day I knew that you had the stuff to be a top-class sportsman was King George Day, because it didn't start as well as it could have, or you would have hoped to. Top of the game. In retrospect, you bumped into one, didn't you, in the mare La Bagawan? Maybe it wouldn't have mattered how you rode that race. You had to sit out the Christmas hurdle. You had an hour and a half to probably think about that. Talk me through that sort of hour or so in your mind.
Yeah, obviously it was a great one. Top of the game, travelled like the winner the whole way, and turned in, got to 3 out, took on La Bagawan. She outstayed us. In hindsight, I probably should have held on to him a little bit. Connections were fairly disappointed, and it was one of those races that probably got away, but I managed to redeem myself in the King George, so it wasn't too bad.
And you did. You dusted yourself down, came out. It was a similar ride in a bigger race, and it all went well for you. How satisfying was that? Talk us through the race itself.
It was brilliant. We had 2 runners in the race, and Politolog was 6-1 favourite or something, and Landers Over was 20-1, and I really did fancy him, and just rode with plenty of confidence, dropped him in a little bit, crept round, tried to keep him on the bridle, and he had a good jump at the last, and which sealed the deal, and it was really good.
onto the second last. Thistlecrack and Clanders Oboe in the air together. Thistlecrack fighting on well, but Clanders Oboe appears to be going the better. Appearances can be deceptive. Going to the last, Thistlecrack, far side of Clanders Oboe. Here's the important jump, and Clanders Oboe met it spot on, and now Cobden says go on the run for home, and Clanders Oboe is finding enough from Thistlecrack, and Clanders Oboe gives Paul Nicholls a 10th King George.
Those are the kind of races you want to be a part of as a jockey. Those are the kind of ones that you want to win, to actually get it done on the day. How good was that?
Oh, it was phenomenal. You know, I spent probably the last 10 years of my life watching Ruby Walsh and other people and Q Card and all those jockeys win those races, so for me to win one is absolutely phenomenal.
And for mum and dad and the family, what would that have meant to them, having sort of put up with you since the pony racing days, having helped you, supported you? How good was that for them?
It hasn't been easy for them. They've obviously put a lot into it financially growing up with the pony racing, and they've helped me out with the pointers, and they were just really proud, and it was just a great day.
How much does your family life, your rural background, your other interests outside racing, how much does that kind of all help you diffuse the intensity, I suppose, of being a professional sportsman?
I'd leave here this morning and I wouldn't think about racing until I get up tomorrow. So massively, you know. Yesterday it was Saturday was a day at Chepstow that I had 5 good rides. I think they all went off favourite in the end, and none of them really ran too well. And yesterday I was just out on the farm and didn't think about it once. And to be honest with you, I didn't even think about it on the way home. I just, you know, that was that. Move on to the next day. Hopefully they'll all win the next time. But
and where do you learn that? How are you able to do that? You did it with Top of the Game to Clanders Oboe within the space of an hour or so. Have you always had that in you? Is it something you've worked on? Where's it come from?
I don't know. Some people say I don't care, which I wouldn't. I definitely disagree with that. I do care, but I just, you know, you've got to move on. You can't dwell on things. You've got to look forward and
you can't change it.
Try and look for the next winner.
Does it feel like you're really part of something now? Because to us, we thought last year would be part of a year or two of change here at Ditcheat, and it all happened a lot quicker than certainly we thought. How do you feel about it now going forward?
Oh yeah, definitely. I ride out here 5 days a week and school a lot of horses here, and it's a great team. And you know, everyone's in good spirit here. So, you know, I go up into the office in the mornings and see what Paul's declaring and make sure I'm dropped up on them all. And I do feel a big part.
100 winners again?
That's the target anyway. If I can ride 100 this year, I'd be delighted.
Reflecting on last season, after that injury through the summer, you must have been like a caged tiger when it got to the start of the campaign.
Yeah, sure. I'd started box walking, weaving, crib biting, you name it, I was doing it. But it's the name of the game, you're going to get injured. But looking back on last year, it was a bit of a whirlwind between highs and lows. You know, in total, I had 5 months off due to injury from collarbone and also the internal stuff last summer. But I had massive help from Oaksey House, and you know, you got to make sure you can't rush yourself once you had injury. That's one thing it's taught me, is a bit of patience. Make sure your body's 100% right, because when you come back, you've got to be, you know, 100% kicking for your horse. He can't carry you home, you know. So that mentality drives you on. And yeah, no, I was ready. And you know, your eyes are on the horizon at every beginning of every season. You think everything's possible, so you just keep kicking for it. And that was definitely where I was like last year. And this year, I can really appreciate now being able to ride all the way through the summer and hit Chepstow like we have. Yeah, it's class. And
did you learn a bit about yourself, a bit about being a sportswoman, a bit about being a jockey as well through those difficult times last year?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and also you learn where your body has to be for its fitness levels too. And like I said, it teaches you patience, because it's the worst part about racing is watching winners that you know you're with, your horses, you partnered them, you've worked hard with them, they're passing the line without you. It's heart-wrenching, and you have to teach yourself to deal with it, have your patience about you, and make sure you don't rush, because the fall of it is rushing back, taking another fall and being off again. You can't, your head will be even worse, more spun than that. But I have a lot of good people around me. You know, I had my dad, who's been through mega injuries through his career, missed a lot of big winners as well, bigger than mine, so I couldn't cry about missing any of the littler ones, you know. So yeah, it's not easy and it's very frustrating, but you know, I also felt a little bit like I had to come back and prove a bigger point. Maybe because I'm a girl, maybe because some people have the opinion that girls can't take hits like lads can, and they can't get up faster, they can't get up stronger. So I was determined to come back twice as hard, twice as fit, twice as determined, like just go on, hit the ball and hit it with it rolling. And you know, Blackie, my main little man at Sandown, I felt more pressure than any race last year at Sandown, because the little man hadn't won yet. I felt the pressure of that because everyone was kind of discarding him as the kind of has-been pony. And I was like, hey, that's my little man, don't you diss him. My hackles went up immediately. And you know, and also I got to get to 50 winners. I was on 49, wasn't I? That is frustrating at the end of the day. And you know, chasing for the conditional title, we had it in the bag. You know, Dave, my agent, who's brilliant, always letting me know how we were getting on and things when I was away. And I had massive backing of teams, you know, Mr. Nicholls and Neil and my dad. So I went to Sandown thinking, I've got to get to 50. I've got to get little Blackie his winner. And I had everyone saying, oh, you and Blackie, our five is on you, know, and oh God, here we go. And he pulled it out of the bag, and from being down on the floor, that little man put me back on cloud 9 within a matter of about, I think it's 3 minutes.
The final fence, one more good jump, yes. Gold Present put in a good leap in second, but racing up the hill is the genuine Black Horton and Bryony Frost, the champion conditional jockey of the season, going on to win the Bet365 Oaksey Chase in very impressive fashion.
And Frodham, of course, was one of those little horses as well. For those of us who've been on course for some of the special days, you know, Denman's 2 Hennessy's, Gold's Cup, pretty good, Cotto Stars, King George's, those were special days, but that Thursday at the Cheltenham Festival was one of those days. What was it like to be right at the centre of the storm, if you like? Oh, well, look, that's what our sport allows us to all do, isn't it? We all dream, and sometimes dreams come true, and when they do, it puts that sort of faith in your heart, and you keep kicking for every moment just like it. The festival, I mean, to even go to the festival to ride in a Grade 1 that completely went over my head at the time, to be riding a horse like Frodon with the bravery that he has, and for the champion trainers to be backing you and having faith to put you in a race like that, to support him and try and you know, get it for him, that's mega. And I remember, I mean, I play it over in my head every day. It's like I live every step with him. But I remember getting there, and I remember cantering off down to start's probably the hardest part with Frode, because he knows his way down to that 2-5 start like the back of his hand, and you have to do quite a tight 90-degree angle to get on the sand and canter along the back of the track. Well, of course, he's skiing along in his parade, so Derham gets absolutely dragged everywhere he goes. We got Shelley, who's worked with him since he's basically arrived, and she's been in racing, I think, was it 10 years or something, never had a festival winner, so we were desperate to get her that moment too. And yeah, he went off around that bend and he came out the side door. I was like, oh, Frode, like, I'm trying to get back on him. But I remember getting down to start and just thinking to myself with him, I thought, mate, we've got to put them all to the sword. You know, you've got to be the bravest out there, and we basically have to break every other horse's heart here. And it wasn't an easy Grade 1. The Irish came over all guns blazing. This wasn't going to be gifted. This wasn't just one of those, you know, 5-runner Grade 1 races. This is everybody's here. The festival is what we all aim for. And I remember jumping off and thinking the flag man was still at the first. I think, Bud, you've got to go because I'm coming at you like lightning.
And he's brilliant, and everything went smoothly. Our jumping, our rhythm, everything was ideal. I remember having one of the Giggerstown horses coming on me outside thinking, well, if you're the pacemaker and you're here to irritate me in Frode, you should have gone faster.
A couple of reminders for Sub-Lieutenant there, who goes up to try and join Frodon as they approach the second fence.
And did it feel different to the fox hunters coming back past the stands, coming back in?
Yeah, it did. You know, Pash looked after me out there. You know, I was a wobbly amateur and he literally railed the whole way around Cheltenham. I sat with him and he brought me home. And, you know, at that point with Pash, I thought this couldn't get better because it's great. It is like the Gold Cup for amateurs, you know. That was mad to think that I was even in a position to win the Fox Hunters at that point. But with Frode, I don't know. Everybody can find a connection with him, you know, and everybody admires how brave he is, because he is. You know, even when he goes down fighting, he will never go down half-hearted. I can guarantee you that. You'll never see him out on track where he gives up on you, you know, and that's what I admire the most about him. You learn a lot off him and his character at home and how boisterous he is about the game, and he's always full of confidence, you know. So when you're having a bad day, you just go and give him a pat and he nudges you out the way. You're like, all right, Mr. Know-it-all, you know. So. But coming back down, I was kind of overwhelmed and really lucky to have so much support. People coming along the road that I'm walking as well. You know, it was mad, everyone shouting. I think they just, I don't know what they find. Maybe it's because I try and let them into my world a little bit. But I just think it's awesome when people are shouting that they've won a tenner, or, you know, and you hear stories when you're pulling up at petrol stations and you say, I had a chap come and he said his kid was running around the in his sitting room pretending to be Frodon and things like that. It's mega because you're just reaching out.
Under So creeping up the inside at this open ditch. Oh, a brilliant jump from Frodon there. He really came up out of Bryony's hands at that one. Frodon, a brilliant jumper.
He popped out over the water like a pro and we came down to that ditch, and I actually giggled at this point of the race. So I thought to myself, Bryony, concentrate, you know, this is a pretty big deal. And he has just come up out of my hands. And I remember giggling to him like, Frode, don't let him know what we've all got, you know? Jesus, you're showing off. And top of the hill, I saw Aso's head come up beside me. I thought, no way, he's one of the outsiders, he shouldn't be here, you know. Kicked him off down that hill. Now, 3 out, you've got to get right, because you're coming down at such a lick, you know, the pace is so fast, you just got to stay back, put him back on his hocks and pray that he gets it right. Frode knows that track as well, and as soon as he changes, he comes down the hill on his outside leg, changes to his inside, and that's when you put him into top revs and go. And I remember seeing Aso still there, 2 out, and we didn't get it, we didn't mess it, but it was slow. And at that moment, we've nearly gone like half length down. My horse's head's now, you know, on the shoulder blades of Aso, and the determination is all there. And I actually thought for a split second, it was that your determination sinks through your body, it's gone. You know, your dreams are starting to go, the hill's looking even higher. And I was giving up. Before him, I was giving up. I thought, there's no way, this is, you know, that's starting to go, I've missed this. And you're still trying to grind away. And it was at that moment when you landed out over 2 out, Frode just put those hind legs down into the turf and just pushed. And that was the moment I was like, oh, we're right on, go on, boy. And that was it, finding the last. I was just like lying on him, just thinking, where is it, where is it, where is it? And he's found it, and he's come up, and he's landed, and he's pushed away. And Aso's head, just every stride started to disappear. The green blur just appeared. The hill was now nearly flat for us. You know, we were just galloping as hard as we possibly could, both our bodies at full tilt.
Up the hill, Frodon on the far side, he's pulling out more from Aso, then back in third row to respect is Frodon and Bryony Frost, a match made in racing heaven. He's going to see it out to win again at Cheltenham, and he wins the Ryanair.
And you don't know where the line is, it's anonymous at that point, you just don't know. Somehow, subconsciously, you think it's there, he knows it's there somewhere. And when you cross it, it all just disappears. You don't know what race it was. You know you're at the festival, but none of that matters. You just look down at him, and I remember just being proud. That was my instant thought was, we've gone out there, we've been the bravest, and you have broken everyone, and you're here, you're a champ.
Clandezabor was obviously one of the stars of last season. Do you think going into last term's campaign that a King George was within his remit?
I thought he was a Grade 1 horse waiting to happen. I'm not necessarily sure I thought he'd win the King George, but all I do know is he didn't get the credit he deserved when he ran the Betfair Chase, because I knew there was huge improvement to come. That was the first, I could have gone down the easy route probably, and probably should have done, run him in the Hennessy, because on his handicap mark at the start of last season, he probably would have won the Hennessy, because it wasn't last year the hottest Hennessy of all time, and he probably would have won the Hennessy. But we thought, let's try him in the Betfair Chase. He ran very well at Haydock for a horse who was a little bit green, wasn't really ready, and I knew there'd be huge improvement to come from him. And just funny enough, Politolog could just want to ask it over 2 mile 3, and I said to Harry getting in the car, well, you're going to have a headache now, what are you going to ride in the King George? He said, no, there's only one horse I'm riding, that's Clan. And he must have had a fair old feel off him that day, and he just progressed, and Kempton suited him right-handed. They went a good gallop, he stays well. When I say well, he doesn't necessarily get 3 1/4, but he 3 miles around Kempton's perfect for him. And he was just phenomenal, the improvement in him. And then he won the Denman Chase, ran a blinder in the Gold Cup, and we rode him really forcefully, actually. I think if I rode the race again, we might have been a little bit more patient, wouldn't have won. But we jumped the last pretty well, right, there was 5 or 6 in the line, and we just faded up the hill the last day. Look, you'd have to say probably stamina might be an issue one day in the Gold Cup. We always thought that about Corto, and he did eventually win a Gold Cup. So, he'll end up being aimed at a Gold Cup again, really, in time. But the big aim is the King George again. I think because if you can win at Kempton, a lot of my horses have won 2 or 3, Quarter won 5. Conti won 2, Seymour Business won 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Clan des Obeaux won again. Not necessarily this year, in the next week's track and race suits him. But he's in good shape. He's definitely improved physically. He might go to Down Raw and run in the Grade 1 Chase they have there on the first Saturday in November, and then the Betfair, he'll definitely have an entry in the Betfair Chase, but King George is his main target.
You sort of bracketed right-handed. Any sense he's slightly better? Nothing in that?
I don't know why. His record says he's probably better right-handed. He has won left-handed. He hasn't won at Cheltenham yet. There was a couple of things going to the Gold Cup last year. He didn't run very well at Cheltenham, but just the races he ran in, and I actually think he ran very well in this year's Gold Cup. But I don't think it matters too much, but he does seem to like going right-handed. And
anything at all in his overall reappearance record?
No, he seems to go well. Fresh. Last year we did give him a racecourse gallop before Haydock, and we haven't done so far. We haven't been able to, believe it or not. It's either been too heavy any places or the ground's been too quick. We will probably get a piece of work into him somewhere, and then, as I said, go to Down Raw.
Talk about Surname, highest rated horse in training. We'd have thought we'd be saying that 12 months ago. He was monstrous at Ascot, an absolute monster. Had that talent always been there?
Yeah, I think it was. He showed plenty the year before last. He ran, just got beaten at Grade 1 at Sandown. He ran some good. He was just too keen and not easy to train up until really Christmas last year. And you saw him this morning, and he was just a different horse. We couldn't have done what we were doing this morning last year. Underwhelming couple of performances in the autumn. That was because he still had in his head he was just going to go as fast as he can for as long as he could, and didn't relax, didn't breathe, complete waste of time. And so we just changed what we did with him, and it just made such a difference. He relaxes now, and then when he won the handicap at Ascot the first day in January, I was watching and thinking, oh my God, Harry, you got some galloper, you got no chance of lasting out. But he just sat in front and turned in the straight, filled his lungs up and took off. And then of course we went for the Grade 1. And he beat some very, very smart horses. He murdered them. Weighed Impatient, Politolog, Charbel, Aso was second to Ryan. And he beat them 17 lengths. And I still thought turning in, oh my God, you're going to gallop. But he actually changed gear and quickened. And actually, if you go on a handicap form, I can see why he's highest rated. Doesn't mean necessarily he's better than Altior or whatever. One's a 2 miler, one's 2.5. But if you just go strictly on the form, if you take Politolog, for example, and take a line with Altior with a Champion Chase, you can see why they've come up with that. But that's figures, and it won't matter because they're not going to run in handicaps again. But at 2.5 miles, he was obviously the best. There's no doubt about that. And on that Ascot form alone, and to me, that was one of the performances of the season. We've now got the job of reproducing that and not hoping it was a fluke or anything like that. But twice he did it, and twice he was brilliant.
And can he do it over 3 miles? That's the question. Is he relaxed enough now these days to do that sort of stuff?
I think he is. I mean, the way he stayed on strongly at Ascot both times, a stiff 2 mile 5, you'd like to think so, but who knows till you do it. The King George, you really have to stay. There's no everything goes a flat, easy track, but they have to stay. Stayers win the King George. And also, you know, you're not going to get a soft lead round at King George. You know, they do go a gallop really round there, which will, as I've said all along, sort Clan des Beaux. Again, Harry Cobden will have a massive issue come Christmas. What the hell would you ride? I think that would be a difficult one. That'd make a man of him.
Well, if I'm doing my job, the question is that I ask you who rides the other one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy enough to do. And Sean Bowen's won on Surname enough times, and Sean's actually won on Clan des Beaux as well. So there'll be a good spare ride going on. But touch wood, they've got to get there. Lots have got to happen between now and then. It would be an interesting one. But that's what we like to do. Go to Ascot, whether Altior runs there or not. We're going to Ascot, and then go to King George.
Little looked well when we saw him today. His horse doesn't quite get the credit he deserves. If you,
he's a Tingle Creek winner. He's won some good races, and he's had his breathing operation for the first time this year, which I've always felt would bring out improvement. I always felt that quite often at Cheltenham he sort of get to the bottom of that hill and not quite finish, and a couple of times he was a bit on and off it. But I think if we've sort of helped him with his breathing a little bit, he's only got to run like he did in the Champion Chase, which was a career best. And my God, he did run some sort of race. I thought John with the Lassie was going to very nearly win, but then Altior kicked in, changed gear, and held on. But if Altior's going up in trip, it will just open the division up a little bit. I mean, there's obviously some smart horses still about, but we're going to go to Cheltenham in the open meeting with him. And then go to the Tingle Creek, and then probably stick to 2 miles. We could go to Kempton over Christmas, and then the 2 mile chase at Ascot at the end of January, and then keep him fresh for Cheltenham. But I think 2 suits him. He's not unlike some of the best 2 milers I've had. He's probably got enough stamina to stay further, but he's a real good staying 2 miler. And if the breathing ops worked, hopefully we'll win some more good races with him.
Getaway Trump was mustered in the school today. How excited are you about him?
Yeah, a massive improvement last year, you know, from ending up 155 at the end of the season, won that novice handicap at Sandown on decent ground off top weight. Form's already worked out well. He broke the course record at Ayr. Just kept progressing. Hopefully he can continue that progress over fences. We may give him 1 run over hurdles, depending on the ground and whether we can do enough schooling, and then go chasing. He's got lots of entries, and we'll make a plan, but I think he will be a super novice chaser without a shadow of a doubt.
And is that now what you originally thought he was supposed to be doing? Is that the horse you envisaged rather than a good hurdler?
I mean, to be honest with you, the first year we couldn't win a bumper with him, so I wasn't sure what we were starting with last year. I knew we had plenty to come from him, but I didn't really envisage he'd be rated 155, but his progress and his improvement, you know, was second to none, and hopefully he can continue that.
Obviously he's running a point, so he should jump fence as well, but he's really impressed us the way he's sort of gone about it, and he's grown up. He's a big strong horse now, and I think he's 155 over hurdles, so if he can be a bit better than that over fences, he'd be a right horse for the festival, wouldn't he?
You know, horses do need more time than people actually really realise, and the more time we give them, more strength they got, they will develop into decent horses. And he's one of them. But yeah, he'll be exciting chaser.
He's got pace, but he stays a little bit further on what we saw over hurdles as well. That could be a useful combination.
Yeah, well, he won over 2.5, I think, and he also was second in the Grade 1 Shallow. Ran very well that day. So if he can stay 2.5 and you've got plenty of speed, that's good. And to be a real good 2 miler, I would say you've got to be a real staying 2 miler. So I'm sure he will be.
I'm getting excited. What's it like to be the master controller of it all?
Well, it's good that, you know, you can hear talking to me, you know, we have got those top NOs. We've got a huge number of really young prospects that are going to develop over the next few seasons, and it's an ongoing thing, really. You've got to. So this year I bought 16 3-year-olds, all from different sales, great pedigree, sold them all, which was good, and so they're being the production line this time. Next year there'll be 4. The 4-year-olds, you know, have gone on. So you can't go and buy big bucks and mastermind of that type of horse now, because they don't come on the market anymore. You have to sort of you're forced into buying a horse now after it's had 1 run. You don't know what that form's like, and they're expensive. So I've really enjoyed getting 3-year-old stores and giving them lots of time. I think the most important thing in my book, not everyone does the same or agrees, is not to run them as 4-year-olds in the spring. Train them for a year, develop them, their mind, everything about them, teach them to jump, nice summer, and then start running them in bumpers at 4. And there's a whole production line behind him, which is exciting.